Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, back at you again this evening with another somewhat late night video to compensate for an earlier video that I recorded in which some of the audio got completely removed. So the story of today and of this video is trying to figure out what tactic we're going to run here with the BYU in this modified USA NCAA college environment. And so I'll sort of show you sort of what the thought process is behind this. So if you are unfamiliar with the history of college football in the 80s and 90s in the United States, I don't really blame you, especially if you're watching this video. I'll tell you that in Provo, Utah, Brigham Young University, which is right next to a very large mountain, there was an emphasis in the college football game on passing. This comes actually kind of from the mid 1970s, but really expanded into its own into the 80s and 90s. So the game that I watched a lot when I was very young was focused almost exclusively on offense with very little thought given to defense at all. And so that's kind of what I've been looking for here. Now, for this save, which, as I said before, is probably going to be a somewhat temporary save, and we'll see how long it ends up going. We're going to go ahead and download a tactic instead of trying to come up with our own, because we saw what happened last time we did that. That wasn't so much fun. And so now this is the part on the other video where I got in trouble because the sound went away all of a sudden. So we go over here to, of course, the Sports Interactive Community Forums. This is a place you can go to find tactics. Do you have to go here? No, there are other places you can go to, but I tend to go over here. I like to go to this part here. It's under tactics, training, and strategies discussion, where the people will talk about like how to make them. For right now, I'm like, screw that, man. I'm going to go over here to the sharing center. So we go over to tactics sharing center. Then we find our lovely Knap thread, and oh wow, we're over up to 631 pages. So we go over here to the last page, and now the tactic I have chosen is not on the last page or on page 630. Rather, it was on page 629. So there are a bunch of different types of tactics we can use, right? We see this one right here, Argus mid-block. I don't know if I want to have a whole bunch of midfielders there as well. I don't know about that sort of setup. There's a lot of defenders here as well. We want something that sort of screams offense. So what I've done is I've gone over here to page 629, scroll down a little bit down the page. That one doesn't look necessarily so hot. Neither does that one we just went past. This one, I feel like, the 4-2-3-1 is so overdone in Football Manager that, why even bother, right? Everyone's done it. Here, look, there's another, what is this? 4-2-4, which is kind of similar to what we had before. We just did that, and there's another 4-2-4. I don't really want to do any of that stuff. Now, this is the one that I stopped on here, this 3-2-4-1. With 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players up here in front in an attacking format, plus with the the segundo volante here, also in attacking form. Only 3 defenders here in the back playing the defensive role. No wing backs at all, no fullbacks at all. Yeah, this is what it's about. This is what we want to do. This looks to me like what BYU would be like, right? If we're talking about like the team that I remember watching a lot when I was a kid, it would be like, yeah, man, who cares about giving up goals? We want to attack, and that's the emphasis here. So we'll go over here to Football Manager. Now, the unfortunate thing about this is that on Sunday, when I was creating all of this stuff, I actually went ahead with this plan and pushed ahead with it. And because I had pushed ahead with this plan already, we already have a few results, but it's not really that much. I'll show you sort of what happened in the friendlies that were played automatically. This is what it looks like. It sort of is what it is. It's an interesting looking tactic. The question I think that we have is whether we're actually capable of playing it or not. As you can see, we've got 2 defenders here who don't really get along together. So if you haven't seen this before, these dotted lines mean that they're not a good partnership. They have played poorly when paired together before in the friendly matches that I just didn't watch and let the computer handle. But, we kind of have to put them together because they're 2 of our best defenders, right? If I don't have them together, then we'll have some, the guys who we have here to play defense are really bad. This guy, Matt Williams is okay, but he's tired, right? So if we put on, I don't know, instead of Gallagher, we put on Glenn Cook. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, he's just not as good, Anyway, I don't know. This is one of the problems, right, with the star ratings, rollability, and stuff like that. But as you can see, I mean, we have to kind of, make whatever decision we can and kind of go with what we've got, right? We got this guy, Cesar Meza, playing in this role, who is coming into it tired. He's on a youth contract. I mean, this guy's like, how old is he? 15 years old, right? And it's because we have to have somebody playing that role because we have, I think it's because this guy, Sun Hyun Tech, is injured. And I think we got another guy here injured as well. So anyway, those are the sort of decisions we have to make. In terms of how this tactic does, I know what you're thinking. It's a downloaded tactic. It's going to be like all about cheating. I mean, we can go look really quick over at what our friendlies have been like, right? Like we can count the losses here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 losses. We had one draw, and then we won 1, 2, 3, 4 matches, right? I mean, this is against our second 11 team, right? That's a friendly match against ourselves. Now, some of these, right, we invited Arsenal to come over, and we scored in they scored an own goal, right? We didn't score any actual goals. We invited Manchester United, Tottenham. You can see I don't have the name patch on and all that stuff. I've been kind of lazy. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll get that fixed up here soon. We invited Leicester over, and we got creamed, And the fans didn't even show up for this game, man. Nobody seemed to care. So much for my idea of making money for this team. Right. Alabama are probably like the one of the best teams in the country because the reputation here is based on the way that college football actually is in the United States right now. Tulane is not a great team. We should have beaten them, and we did not. That's a problem. We did beat Stanford, which is pretty good because they're in the Pac-12, which is right on top of the division we're in. We have been unceremoniously placed in the Mountain West Conference, and I won't tell you about the history of BYU and the Mountain West Conference this soon. Now, we did beat Clemson, but there's a question about, well, maybe the Clemson here is not such a great team, and we also beat Michigan. So that's the sign that maybe something good is happening. I don't know. But having said that, like, this doesn't strike me as like the sign of like one of these magic miracle tactics or anything like that, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't think that necessarily like, we're going to, start absolutely dominating every single other team, every single game because of the tactic. And that really is one of the things that I kind of want to say. I mean, I've had a couple of videos about this already, right? There's this kind of misunderstanding that you see among a lot of people who play Football Manager, especially, hate to say it, but especially among people who maybe don't spend so much time like really reading about it and understanding sort of the theory behind it. Instead, they just want to kind of plug and play and just want to have that sensation of winning. As much as we put an emphasis on tactics, is really not just the tactic that's important, right? As I said before, you got to worry about stuff like the dynamics of your squad. You got to worry about like, are people happy or not? Do you have good team leaders? Have they really been established and identified? As a coach, do you have do you have the ability to get the respect of your players and stuff like that? That's what's really important. Well, we could look at that here for a second too, right? Good team cohesion, excellent club atmosphere. So that stuff is pretty good. And we have, unlike what we had in Yenbian, we actually do have a hierarchy. And you'll see that our team leader is also not one of the he's not the captain or vice captain because I chose that based on, I don't remember what I chose that based off of, but based off of something, right? And so, I mean, you can tell things are going okay at the club, right? But when you're having these things that I see all the time where people are like, oh man, the latest update screwed up my tactics and stuff like that and made it so that we're losing, it might be the latest update, but it also might not, right? There's a lot in the community. There's a lot of this like over dramatization and like these overreactions and stuff. It's a pretty complicated game, right? It's not just about like, oh yeah, the tactic was nerfed and so that's what happened. Not really. And I've read enough on forums to know that, one group of people will be like, oh, well, this type of role is overpowered right now. And another group of people will be like, no, it's underpowered and I can't win anything with it. I mean, it's probably not your tactic, right? Anyway, that's kind of what goes into it, right? You can consider using a downloaded tactic. I've said this before to be, a problem. I actually don't think that it is cheap or cheating to use a downloaded tactic. I personally don't really see what the problem with that is, right? The majority of tactics that people create on their own are based off of templates that Football Manager, the Sports Interactive, has already created, right? Which function basically the same as a downloaded tactic. It's just that you feel a little bit better about modifying it because you don't have this like mystical belief that the tactic is magic, right? But it's basically the same thing. Anybody who's played this game for the last like 5 years knows that the Gegenpress 4-2-3-1 tends to do extraordinarily well in all situations, even after they nerfed it and said that they did nerf it, it still works really well if you play with it and if you have young enough players, right? So I mean, I don't know. I'm not convinced that tactics are these like magic wonder beans that will always make you win, and I'm also not convinced that it's super unrealistic to like download something that somebody else has worked on. Frankly, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm actually being hired by like some European club, or when we start the around the globe mega save by some random small club on some small island in the middle of nowhere, I'm probably not going to go there and have a completely blank sheet and create my own tactic out of nothing, right? I'm probably going to copy off of what somebody else is doing. And therefore, I figure that, I mean, downloading a tactic is the same thing as sort of studying what somebody else has done and trying to implement it, right? When I played basketball when I was, like 13, 14 years old at church, we had a coach who tried to get us to play the triangle offense that the Bulls were using in the mid 90s, right? And like, I mean, he didn't come up with that himself, and he tried it, and it actually worked pretty well, right? That's what you would do. Anyway, enough rambling for now. I will see you tomorrow. We'll have another video here this afternoon, and then tomorrow we will have the first game of the season. Bye.